You have seen the photo. A 25-year-old standing on the doorstep, dangling a set of keys. Behind them, a 3-bedroom semi-detached, in one of the nicer suburbs. You scroll up to their job title. You glance at the house price. Then you open your own banking app, look at your balance, and something just does not add up. The maths simply does not work. So let's ask the question honestly. In 2026, how are young Brits actually getting onto the property ladder? Because the salary on that screen does not buy the house in that picture. Not even close. Something else is going on behind the scenes. And once you see it, you will never look at one of those doorstep photos the same way again. Meet the silent partner. On almost every one of those photos, there is an invisible signature already on the mortgage, the bank of mum and dad. In 2026, more than half of all first-time buyers are receiving direct financial help from family. And by some measures, that figure is pushing closer to 60%. And we are not talking about a few £100s towards a new sofa. The typical family contribution now runs into tens of thousands of pounds, often £35,000 or more, with assisted buyers putting down deposits that completely dwarf anything a solo saver could ever manage. Here is the uncomfortable truth. This is no longer a gift. It is not a lovely little bonus. For the British middle class, it has quietly become a structural necessity, the single biggest factor deciding who owns and who rents. And that decision is being made, increasingly, not by how hard you work, but by whether your parents happen to own a house that has silently quadrupled in value over the last 30 years. But what if there is no bank of mum and dad? What if your parents are renting too? Then the government has to become your silent partner instead, through the lifetime ISA. Here is how it works, and why it matters. You can pay in up to £4,000 a year, and the government tops that up by 25%. That is a free bonus of up to £1,000 every single year, sitting right on top of your own savings. And if you are buying with a partner who also has one, you each get your own bonus, effectively doubling the boost on your deposit. Do that consistently for a few years, and the state is quietly gifting you the deposit your family cannot. For young Brits without wealthy parents, maxing out that lifetime ISA every April is not a nice to have. It is the only real lever they have to compete on the same ladder as the assisted buyers. But there is a catch. The property has to cost under £450,000, which, across huge parts of London and the home counties, quietly rules you out before you have even begun. Now, let's talk about the trap hiding in plain sight, because even with a gift and a bonus stacked together, the numbers are still brutal, so buyers do something clever and quietly dangerous. They stretch the term. Think of your mortgage as a race. For your grandparents, it was a 25-year sprint, hard going, but with a finish line you could actually see from the start. For young buyers in 2026, it has turned into a marathon with no visible end, an endless road. More than 1 in 5 first-time buyers now sign up for terms of 35 years or longer, and 40-year mortgages have gone from exotic to almost normal. The average first-time buyer term has crept well past 30 years. The 25-year standard is history. Stretching that road lowers the monthly payment. Yes, that is the whole appeal. But it does not make the house 1 penny cheaper. It makes it far more expensive over your lifetime. You are simply agreeing to run for longer and to hand the bank more interest for the privilege. Many of these buyers will still be making payments on their very first flat, long after their own children have finished school and left home. They did not out-earn the price. They just agreed to keep running. For those who cannot stretch the road far enough, there is another door, and it is marked affordable, shared ownership. The pitch sounds gentle and sensible. Buy a slice you can actually afford, say 25%, and pay a subsidized rent on the other 75%. A foot on the ladder at last. But look closely, because this ladder has a loose rung. Almost all of these homes are leasehold, and that is exactly where the trap springs shut. Because whether you own 25% or 75% of the walls, you are usually liable for 100% of the service charge. And those charges have been climbing hard. Across England and Wales, they jumped by around 11% in a single year. And in some blocks, owners have opened annual bills that had simply doubled overnight, with no cap and very little they could do about it. Let that sink in. There are shared owners in 2026 whose monthly service charge now costs more than their actual mortgage payment. They own a quarter of a flat, and they are paying for the privilege 3 separate times over: mortgage, rent, and a runaway service charge they do not control. And selling to escape it is far harder than selling a normal home. That is the mirage. It looks like ownership. It behaves like a very expensive form of renting. So, how fragile is all of this, really? Let's run a simple resilience test. Picture 2 completely ordinary shocks. Shock 1, the commuter train. The rail operator announces a fare hike, and suddenly the season ticket that gets you to work costs a few £100s more a year than it did last month. Shock 2, the roof. A survey flags a structural problem, and you are handed a £2,000 repair bill you never planned for. For a previous generation, both are annoying but survivable. For today's high-leverage buyer, no real deposit of their own, terms stretched to the horizon, every single pound already committed, there is simply no margin left. And this is the quiet crisis sitting behind all those cheerful doorstep photos. These young owners are asset-rich, but cash flow strangled. On paper, they own a home. In reality, they are one fare rise or one roof repair away from serious trouble. And yet the lenders have spotted the deposit problem too and built a brand new lifeline for it: the return of the 100% mortgage. The headline product here does something remarkable. It uses your rental history as your deposit. The logic is actually quite neat. If you have paid, say, £1,000 in rent, in full and on time, for 12 straight months, you have already proven you can handle a mortgage of the same size. So the bank lends you the entire value of the home, no deposit required at all. It has genuinely helped thousands of trapped renters finally get their keys. But read the small print, because it is doing a lot of work. Since you bring no deposit, the bank charges you for the extra risk, with an interest rate meaningfully higher than the market's best deals, often up around 5.6%, when sharper buyers are borrowing near 5%. And borrowing the full 100% means that if house prices so much as dip, you can slide straight into negative equity, owing the bank more than your home is even worth. A lifeline, absolutely, but one that costs you more and one that snaps far more easily. Put all of this together, and you get a very particular feeling. It tends to arrive on any quiet morning, usually right at the start of the month. You open the banking app, still half asleep, and you watch the numbers march out. The mortgage goes. The service charge goes. The bonus you fought so hard to save gets swallowed whole in seconds, and a strange sinking thought lands. You do not really own this home at all. You are a tenant of the bank, paying every month for the right to keep standing in it, which is exactly why so many young professionals are now voting with their feet. Call it the Great North Move. For years the plan was simple: chase the biggest salary you could find in London and the South East. But when it costs more than 8 times your annual earnings to buy in the capital, and 9 of the 10 most affordable areas in the whole country are sitting up in Scotland, the loyalty finally breaks. So they are leaving, trading London and the home counties for Leeds, for Sheffield, for Glasgow, cities where a real career still exists, but where a house price does not require a miracle or a millionaire parent. They are not chasing the highest wage anymore. They are chasing the shortest possible distance between their salary and their own front door. So, how are young Brits really buying houses in 2026? Not on salary alone, they are doing it with a gift from mum and dad, or a bonus from the government. With a term stretched to breaking point, or a quarter share of a flat they do not truly control. With no deposit and a higher rate, or a one-way ticket north. Home ownership in Britain has quietly changed its entire nature. It has gone from a rite of passage, something you earned, to a family project, something you inherit. Wealth is no longer really about what you earn. It is about your access to capital. And true freedom? True freedom is a home that does not ask you to sign away the next 40 years of your life, just for the right to walk through your own front door. If this made you look at those doorstep photos a little differently, you know what to do. Like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.